First story. My family tried to guilt trip me into taking my daughter's bully on our annual vacation, but I refused, and now they're furious. Family traditions are supposed to bring joy, right? That's what I used to believe until this year. Every December, my family gathers for our annual winter vacation. It's a tradition we've upheld for as long as I can remember. 2 weeks of bonding before Christmas, filled with laughter, cozy evenings, and shared meals. It's always been the highlight of the year for me, my siblings, their kids, and our parents. But this time, something has completely shattered the peace. Let me give you some background. I'm a 43-year-old single dad to my daughter Emily. She's 15, fiercely independent, and proud to call herself a nerd. Emily thrives on her love for anime, video games, and all things Star Wars. She's quirky, unique, and unapologetically herself, which I adore. But being different has made her a target, especially at school. Middle school was rough for her, but she's grown a lot since then and learned to brush off the usual teasing. Unfortunately, there's one bully who refuses to back down, Jeff. Jeff is 16 and happens to be my nephew's best friend. If that wasn't messy enough, Jeff is also, in my honest opinion, one of the cruelest kids I've ever encountered. This isn't just name-calling or playground teasing. We're talking about a boy who has gone out of his way to torment Emily at every opportunity. He's pulled her hair, ruined her clothes, and even destroyed her belongings. The worst was last year when he stole her backpack and shoved it into a toilet in the boys' bathroom. That incident escalated into a full-on fistfight, leaving both kids suspended from school. I thought the school's intervention or the meetings we had with his parents would make a difference, but it didn't. Jeff keeps finding new ways to make Emily's life miserable. Fast forward to last week. I was on a call with my sister, casually discussing the final plans for our trip. Everything seemed fine until she mentioned needing to buy a winter coat for Jeff. My heart dropped. "Wait, Jeff's coming?" I asked, already feeling a knot in my stomach. When she confirmed it, I saw red. Without even thinking, I told her, flat out, that Emily and I weren't going. The call turned into a heated argument. My sister started pleading with me, rattling off the usual family guilt trip lines. "It's tradition. This trip is important for the family. Think about the memories we're making." But my mind was made up. I told her I'd rather forfeit my portion of the costs than subject Emily to 2 weeks under the same roof as her tormentor. My stance was clear. I would only go if Jeff was uninvited. That's when the emotional manipulation kicked into high gear. My sister tried every excuse under the sun to justify Jeff's behavior. "He's had a tough life," she said. "His parents are divorced. He doesn't have the same stable upbringing we had. Maybe he just has a crush on Emily, and he doesn't know how to express it." A crush? Really? Is that supposed to excuse his relentless bullying? When I reminded her about the backpack incident in the fight, she brushed it off. "I know, but Jeff needs this trip. He needs a break from his toxic home environment." Don't get me wrong, I sympathize with kids who grow up in unstable households. Jeff's dad is distant, and his mom, well, let's just say she's the type who blames my daughter for provoking Jeff instead of holding her son accountable. I get it. His life isn't easy. But why does his need for a vacation trump my daughter's right to feel safe? My refusal has set off a family-wide meltdown. My parents are furious, calling me selfish and begging me to reconsider for the sake of the family. My siblings are split down the middle. Some agree with me, saying they wouldn't want their kids around someone like Jeff either. Others think I'm overreacting and letting Emily's anxiety dictate my decisions. Meanwhile, the text messages keep pouring in, each one more exhausting than the last. But the worst part? Emily. The moment I told her Jeff might be coming, she had a full-blown panic attack. She was shaking, crying, barely able to catch her breath. Seeing her like that broke my heart. She's begged me not to take her on this trip if he's there. "Dad, please don't make me go," she said, her voice trembling. "I can't do this. And I won't. My job as her father is to protect her, no matter what. I don't care how many family traditions I have to break or how much backlash I get. My daughter's mental health and safety come first, but part of me wonders, am I being too rigid? Should I be more understanding of Jeff's situation? Or am I right to draw this line in the sand? Either way, the damage is done. The trip is a week away and my family is in chaos. I'm standing firm for Emily, but it feels like I'm fighting this battle alone. Maybe I'm looking for validation, or maybe I need someone to tell me I'm being unreasonable. Either way, I'm exhausted. Second story, I supported my niece through everything, but her older boyfriend's shocking accusations made me cancel her luxury trip. My niece, who's just turned 18, has always been more like a younger sister to me. I've been a significant part of her life, especially in the last few years, helping her navigate challenges and providing guidance whenever she needed it. That's why what's unfolded recently feels like a gut punch. She's been dating this guy from another country. She met him while he was working at her college, and they spent a grand total of 3 days together before he left. Since then, their relationship has been long distance. None of us in the family have met him, talked to him, or even seen him. Despite that, I've been nothing but supportive, helping her prepare for her upcoming trip to visit him and assisting with anything she needed along the way. Now, I should mention something important here. This guy is military, and so am I. The difference is, I'm an officer, while he's a senior NCO. This detail will come into play later. Before her trip, I had a few straightforward requests for her safety. I asked for his contact information, just in case something went wrong, and for her to check in with me when she landed and before returning home. I didn't think these were unreasonable asks, especially considering she's young and traveling alone to see someone she barely knows. Every time I brought it up, I reassured her how much I loved her, how proud I was of her independence, and how I wanted her to enjoy herself while staying safe. In fact, I was so invested in making her happy that I went all out for the holidays. I booked a luxury weekend getaway for her and her mom, complete with a private suite at a historic five-star hotel and reservations at some of the best restaurants in the area. Everything was paid for by me. All they had to do was show up. But here's where things started to unravel. When I initially asked for her boyfriend's contact info, she became noticeably evasive. She claimed he didn't have a phone number, which seemed odd, and said they only communicated through social media. When I asked where she'd be staying, on or off base, she said she didn't know. Sensing her discomfort, I didn't press the issue and left it at that. Later, during a family dinner, my mom asked her why she hadn't shared any contact info with me or anyone else. Her response floored everyone. She said she didn't like the way I'd asked her and that it was inappropriate. What's worse, she told her boyfriend about it, and he apparently reported me to his commanding officer. I wasn't there during this conversation, but my family overheard her remarks and were shocked. They pointed out how her actions could have caused serious trouble for me, especially considering the military angle. Most of my family came to my defense, insisting I'd done nothing wrong. To back up my side, I even shared screenshots of our text exchanges. Not a single person could find anything inappropriate in what I said. It was all calm, respectful, and focused on her safety. But what makes this even more concerning is that her boyfriend seems much older. While she shuts down any questions about him, I've confirmed through connections back home that he's not some 22-year-old college guy. He's a seasoned senior NCO, which means there's likely a significant age gap between them. The family started speculating that he might be influencing her. She claimed he didn't like me asking for his contact info, which feels like a red flag. This is a man who's been in the military long enough to understand why I'd want that information, yet he turned it into an issue. After everything I've done for her, supporting her, helping her prepare for this trip, and planning an extravagant holiday getaway, it felt like a betrayal to hear that she'd complained about me to him, and to have him escalate things to his chain of command over a single polite request. It stung. Feeling hurt and used, I made a decision. I called her mom and canceled the trip. I couldn't stomach the idea of financing a luxurious weekend for someone who had shown such little regard for me. I'm still planning to take the trip myself, but now I'm considering inviting other family members who appreciate my efforts and respect the relationship we share. Even with the family largely on my side, I can't shake the feelings of stress, confusion, and betrayal. I've always had her back, and this is how she repaid me? My mentors in command have reassured me that I'm in the clear, and I've done nothing wrong. But the situation has left me questioning everything: her judgment, his motives, and how I should handle things moving forward. So, am I wrong for uninviting her and her mom from the trip I planned? Should I feel guilty for reallocating the funds to spend time with people who actually value my support? Or is this just a hard lesson about where to draw the line, even with family? Third story. My husband became distant and left me heartbroken. After I ran into an old crush at a wedding, now I'm torn about whether to tell him the truth or keep it a secret. The past few months have been a whirlwind in my marriage, and I've been questioning everything. My husband, Marcus, whom I've been married to for a year now and dated for 2 years before that, has become almost unrecognizable to me. We've always had our disagreements, sure. What couple doesn't? But lately, the tension between us has been growing, and it's been getting worse with every passing day. We recently moved into a new apartment together, and it seemed like a fresh start. But instead, something shifted in him, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. He became distant, withdrawn, and completely shut off from me. We didn't talk like we used to. He didn't seem to care about the little things anymore. It felt like I was living with a stranger, not the man I married. Sex, well, that became non-existent. He was always in the bathroom, spending hours by himself, and when I'd try to approach him, he'd push me away. I would ask him what was wrong, but he wouldn't open up. The silence between us grew unbearable. He didn't even want to go out anymore, despite the fact I would encourage him to step out, to do something fun, something that might break the monotony. But no, he kept pushing me away. He even started to pick fights over the smallest things, little stupid arguments that felt like they came out of nowhere. The weirdest part, he would leave our bed to sleep on the couch, saying he was working late. For weeks, this was our routine. I felt like I was living in a marriage where only one person was trying to make it work. Then came my best friend's birthday. I had been looking forward to it for weeks, but the night before, Marcus snapped. Out of nowhere, he got angry and refused to go. He insisted that I should go alone, practically pushing me out the door. I couldn't understand why, but I was left with no choice. So I went, but the whole time I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. At the party, I ran into Oliver, my best friend's brother. I hadn't seen him in years. He'd moved away for work right after high school. Back then, I had a massive crush on him, but life went on and we lost touch. Now, here he was, back in town, planning to stay for a while. We caught up, and before I knew it, we were texting casually, just catching up on life. Nothing flirtatious, just two old friends reconnecting. A few days later, Marcus and I had yet another fight. He said things I never expected to hear. He told me he couldn't stand living with me anymore. I was annoying and was always harassing him. He claimed I complained too much, especially about us never going out, and said he needed a break from everything. He packed his things and went to stay at a hotel for a few days, leaving me behind to pick up the pieces. I was devastated, unsure of what was happening. I tried calling, texting, hoping he'd come back, but he didn't respond. He ghosted me. That's when Oliver reached out, asking how I was doing. I told him about Marcus leaving, and he immediately told me to get out of the house, to stop stressing about it. He was going to a wedding the next day, and he invited me to come along. Now, let me tell you, I love weddings. I've always found them magical, and after everything that had happened, I didn't want to sit around and wallow in my own misery. So, I agreed. We went to the wedding, and while nothing romantic happened between us, the whole situation made me realize just how easily it could be misinterpreted. So, I asked Oliver to keep it quiet. I didn't want anyone to think something was going on between us, because nothing was. I was just trying to escape, even if for one night. The next day, Marcus came back. His return wasn't anything like I expected. He was crying, apologizing for everything that had happened over the past few months. He admitted he had been dealing with some personal issues, but hadn't known how to express it. He promised me he was starting therapy and that things would get better. He told me that he loved me more than anything in the world, that everything he'd said and done was a result of his own struggles, and that he didn't mean it. Part of me wants to believe him, to trust that he's really committed to making things right. I've always loved him, and I want to save our marriage. But here's the problem. I'm left with this huge dilemma. Do I tell him about the wedding with Oliver? It wasn't anything serious, but there's a part of me that feels like I should be honest. But then again, I don't want to make things worse, especially when he's already been through so much. He might find out eventually, and if he does, will it make everything even more complicated? I don't know what the right thing to do is. The last thing I want is to hurt him further, but I also don't want to hide anything from him. What if it comes out and he feels betrayed, even though nothing happened? Should I tell him now, or keep it to myself for the sake of peace?